Welcome back to XRP Insider, your trusted source for the latest XRP news, Ripple updates, crypto market analysis, and major financial stories shaping the future of digital assets. Today's headline is absolutely shaking the XRP community because XRP has officially broken below the critical $1.30 level, while Ripple's growing banking ambitions are suddenly drawing massive attention across the financial world. Traders are watching every move closely right now because this market setup is becoming extremely intense, and many investors are asking whether this is just temporary fear or the beginning of a much bigger move ahead for XRP. We are also going to talk about Ripple's Federal Reserve master account situation, the OCC approval that could completely change Ripple's role in banking, why futures traders are becoming cautious, and how massive developments in AI and tech investments from companies like IBM and Meta are affecting the broader market sentiment. There is a lot happening today, and honestly, the pressure building around XRP right now feels bigger than anything we have seen in weeks. XRP started the day under heavy selling pressure as traders watched the price suddenly slip below the major support level near $1.30. This level had become psychologically important for both bulls and bears because many traders believed XRP needed to stay above it to maintain bullish momentum. But once the price broke lower, panic selling accelerated quickly, and futures positioning across the market became noticeably weaker. Analysts started pointing out that leveraged traders were closing positions aggressively, while market sentiment turned cautious almost immediately. Even though the broader crypto market has already been dealing with uncertainty recently, XRP appeared to take a stronger hit because investors are trying to understand how Ripple's expanding banking ambitions could impact the future value of the token itself. Some traders are still optimistic because they believe this drop is simply a temporary shakeout before a larger breakout, while others fear XRP could continue falling if support levels keep collapsing. Either way, today's market action has clearly become one of the most talked about developments in crypto. One of the biggest reasons traders are paying such close attention right now is because XRP has been trading inside a massive triangle pattern for a long period of time. And according to technical analysts, the chart is now approaching the apex of that formation. In simple terms, this means XRP may soon be forced into a major breakout or breakdown move that could decide the next direction for weeks or even months ahead. Some analysts believe this setup could create explosive volatility because the longer a market stays trapped inside a tightening pattern, the stronger the eventual move can become once price escapes that range. Right now, the fear comes from the fact that XRP broke below a major support area, while momentum indicators also started weakening. However, some experienced traders are warning people not to panic too quickly because fake breakdowns happen very often in crypto markets. If XRP suddenly reclaims lost levels, short sellers could get trapped, creating a powerful recovery rally. This is exactly why the XRP community is watching every candle so closely today. Ripple's banking ambitions are also becoming a major conversation again because reports surrounding its pending Federal Reserve master account are bringing fresh attention back to the company's long-term strategy. For many people outside the crypto world, this may sound technical, but the implications could actually be enormous. A Federal Reserve master account would potentially allow Ripple-linked banking operations to gain direct access to the U.S. payment infrastructure without relying entirely on intermediary banks. That possibility has sparked major debate across financial circles because it could strengthen Ripple's ability to compete in cross-border payments and settlement systems at a much larger scale. Investors are now questioning whether Ripple is positioning itself to become more than just a blockchain company. Some believe Ripple could eventually evolve into a major financial infrastructure player, connecting traditional banking with blockchain-powered settlement technology. That is why every development involving regulators, banking approvals, and financial partnerships suddenly becomes highly important for XRP holders who believe adoption could eventually drive massive long-term demand for the asset. Ripple's OCC approval discussions are also adding another layer of excitement and uncertainty to the market because many investors think this could expand Ripple's influence in regulated financial services dramatically. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency plays a critical role in the American banking system, and any connection between Ripple and regulated banking access naturally attracts enormous attention from institutions, traders, and financial analysts. Supporters argue that Ripple has spent years building legal compliance, payment infrastructure, and enterprise partnerships, specifically to position itself for deeper integration into the traditional financial system. Critics, however, remain skeptical and argue that regulatory complexity could slow progress significantly. Even so, the market clearly understands that Ripple is no longer being viewed as just another crypto company chasing hype. Instead, many investors now see Ripple as a serious participant in the future of financial infrastructure, and that perception alone is changing how institutions evaluate XRP. The current price weakness may look scary to short-term traders, but long-term supporters continue focusing on the broader banking strategy Ripple appears to be building. Another important factor affecting XRP today is the noticeable decline in futures confidence. Futures markets often reveal how aggressive or defensive traders are feeling because leveraged positions tend to react quickly to uncertainty. Over the past several hours, traders have been reducing exposure as XRP lost momentum near important technical levels. Funding rates weakened, open interest started falling, and many analysts interpreted this as a sign that traders are becoming more cautious rather than aggressively bullish. This does not necessarily guarantee further downside, but it does show that confidence has clearly cooled compared to previous weeks when excitement around XRP was much stronger. Interestingly, some veteran market watchers actually view declining leverage as healthy because overly crowded bullish positioning can sometimes create unstable market conditions. By forcing weaker hands out of the market, XRP could potentially establish a stronger foundation for future rallies. Still, in the short term, the mood has definitely become more defensive as investors wait for clearer signals before making major moves again. The broader crypto market environment is also contributing to XRP's struggles because investors everywhere are becoming increasingly sensitive to macroeconomic uncertainty, regulatory pressure, and changing liquidity conditions. Bitcoin itself has shown periods of hesitation recently, and whenever Bitcoin loses momentum, altcoins like XRP often experience amplified volatility. Traders are now carefully monitoring Federal Reserve policy expectations, interest rate discussions, and institutional investment trends because all of these factors influence risk appetite across the entire digital asset market. Even though Ripple continues pushing forward with banking ambitions and global payment expansion, market sentiment can still overpower fundamentals in the short term. This is why XRP sometimes experiences strong price swings, even during periods of positive company developments. Many investors understand this reality, but emotional reactions still dominate when prices suddenly fall below key levels. Social media discussions today have become extremely intense as bullish supporters defend the long-term vision, while bearish traders warn that more downside could still arrive if market conditions remain weak in the coming days. What makes this situation even more fascinating is the fact that Ripple's long-term narrative appears stronger than ever, despite the recent market weakness. The company continues expanding partnerships, exploring payment innovation, and strengthening relationships within the financial industry. While many crypto projects remain dependent purely on speculation and hype cycles, Ripple has consistently focused on enterprise adoption and real-world utility. Supporters argue this is exactly why XRP remains one of the most closely watched digital assets in the world, even after years of regulatory battles and market volatility. They believe Ripple's persistence is gradually positioning the company for a future where blockchain technology becomes deeply integrated into global financial systems. Of course, critics still question whether XRP adoption will truly translate into sustained price appreciation, but the continued attention from banks, institutions, and payment companies keeps the debate alive. Right now, investors are balancing short-term fear against long-term optimism, creating one of the most emotionally divided market environments XRP has seen in recent months. Beyond crypto, the technology sector is also influencing investor psychology today because massive corporate developments involving artificial intelligence and quantum computing are dominating headlines. Meta reportedly announced major layoffs affecting around 1,400 jobs in Washington, while simultaneously continuing billion-dollar investments into AI infrastructure and future technology expansion. This situation highlights a growing trend across major corporations where companies are aggressively restructuring operations to prioritize artificial intelligence development. Investors across all markets are paying close attention because AI has become one of the biggest drivers of speculation, growth expectations, and capital allocation globally. Even though this may seem unrelated to XRP at first glance, broader technology sentiment often affects crypto markets because investors view digital assets and advanced technologies as interconnected high-growth sectors. When major companies pour billions into future innovation, it changes overall market expectations and risk appetite, As a result, developments involving AI and technology giants indirectly shape how traders approach cryptocurrencies like XRP as well. IBM also entered the spotlight after reports revealed plans for a massive $10 billion quantum computing investment, alongside expanded Red Hat security initiatives. This news generated excitement because quantum computing is increasingly viewed as a revolutionary technology capable of transforming industries ranging from finance to cybersecurity. Investors immediately responded positively, sending IBM shares higher, while discussions about the future of advanced computing intensified across markets. Crypto traders are watching these developments carefully because blockchain security and technological infrastructure remain deeply connected to broader computing advancements. Some analysts believe future breakthroughs in AI and quantum computing could dramatically reshape financial systems, payment networks, and even blockchain architecture itself. This creates a fascinating backdrop for Ripple's ambitions because the company is already attempting to position itself at the intersection of finance and advanced digital infrastructure. The combination of banking integration, blockchain settlement systems, and emerging technologies is creating a narrative that many investors find incredibly compelling, despite the current short-term price volatility affecting XRP. Inside the XRP community, reactions today have been mixed but extremely emotional. Some holders remain completely confident and view the recent dip as nothing more than another temporary setback before a larger breakout eventually occurs. Others are clearly frustrated because XRP has struggled to sustain momentum despite multiple positive developments involving Ripple's legal standing and banking ambitions. Long-term supporters continue arguing that institutional adoption takes time and that Ripple's strategy has always been focused on building slowly within regulated financial systems rather than chasing short-term hype cycles. Meanwhile, short-term traders are more focused on immediate price action, technical breakdowns, and momentum indicators. This clash between long-term conviction and short-term fear is creating intense debates across social media platforms and crypto communities everywhere. Every chart movement is now being analyzed heavily, and every statement connected to Ripple's banking strategy is being treated like a potentially major catalyst. The emotional intensity surrounding XRP today proves once again that this asset remains one of the most passionately followed cryptocurrencies in the market. Market analysts are also discussing whether XRP's current weakness could eventually create a powerful accumulation opportunity for institutional investors looking to gain exposure before larger financial integration occurs. Historically, periods of fear and uncertainty often attract bigger players searching for discounted entry points into assets they believe have long-term potential. Some experts argue that Ripple's expanding regulatory positioning makes XRP different from many speculative cryptocurrencies because the company continues actively engaging with governments, regulators, and financial institutions around the world. If Ripple succeeds in securing stronger banking integration over time, some investors believe XRP's utility narrative could strengthen significantly. Of course, there are still risks, including regulatory unpredictability, competition from other blockchain payment systems, and overall crypto market volatility. But despite these risks, XRP continues attracting attention because few projects operate with the same level of institutional focus that Ripple has pursued for years. This combination of uncertainty and possibility is exactly why XRP remains such a polarizing yet fascinating asset to watch. Another reason traders are nervous today is because breaking below major psychological levels can sometimes trigger algorithmic selling and momentum-driven trading strategies. In modern financial markets, large amounts of trading activity are influenced by automated systems reacting instantly to technical signals. Once XRP moved below $1.30, many automated trading strategies likely interpreted that as a bearish signal, increasing downward pressure further. This creates a snowball effect where technical breakdowns accelerate emotional selling among retail traders at the same time. However, experienced investors understand that crypto markets are often highly reactive and emotional in both directions. Sharp declines can quickly reverse if sentiment shifts or if unexpected positive developments emerge. This is why some analysts continue warning traders against making purely emotional decisions during volatile periods. XRP has experienced dramatic recoveries before, and supporters believe the current banking developments could eventually provide a strong foundation for future growth once short-term market panic begins fading. Ripple's vision for cross-border payments remains one of the most important long-term themes behind XRP, and today's developments are once again reminding investors why that narrative continues attracting global attention. Traditional international payment systems are often criticized for being slow, expensive, and inefficient, especially when moving money across multiple countries and currencies. Ripple has spent years trying to solve those problems by using blockchain-based settlement technology designed to improve speed and reduce friction. Supporters argue that if financial institutions increasingly adopt Ripple's infrastructure, demand for XRP-related liquidity solutions could eventually expand substantially. Skeptics still question whether banks will fully embrace crypto-linked settlement models, but Ripple's ongoing engagement with regulators and financial institutions keeps that possibility alive. As banking access discussions gain momentum again, investors are reassessing how large Ripple's future role in global payments could actually become. That is one reason why even sharp price drops fail to completely destroy optimism among XRP believers, who remain focused on the bigger picture. Looking ahead, traders are now watching several critical levels very closely, because the next few days could determine whether XRP stabilizes or experiences another wave of volatility. If buyers manage to reclaim important resistance areas quickly, sentiment could improve dramatically and trigger renewed bullish momentum. On the other hand, if selling pressure continues intensifying, analysts warn that additional downside targets may come into focus. Technical indicators alone, however, are not the only thing driving the market right now. Investors are equally focused on Ripple's regulatory positioning, banking access progress, institutional partnerships, and the broader direction of the crypto market overall. Any major announcement involving Ripple's financial integration efforts could instantly shift market psychology. This combination of technical uncertainty and fundamental anticipation is creating an environment where traders are expecting potentially explosive moves ahead. Whether those moves turn bullish or bearish remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. XRP is once again sitting at the center of one of the most closely watched stories in crypto. As the market continues processing all of these developments, the biggest question remains whether Ripple's growing banking ambitions will eventually outweigh the short-term price weakness currently affecting XRP. Many investors believe the company is quietly building infrastructure that could become extremely important in the future financial system, especially if blockchain technology becomes more integrated into banking and international settlement networks. Others remain cautious and argue that regulatory challenges and market competition still create significant uncertainty. Regardless of which side investors support, today's developments have undeniably pushed XRP back into the spotlight. Between the price breakdown below $1.30, the weakening futures market, the triangle pattern approaching a critical point, and the growing attention surrounding Ripple's Federal Reserve access and OCC-related discussions, the market is filled with tension right now. This is exactly the type of environment where major market turning points can form, and traders everywhere know it. That is all for today's XRP Insider Update, but clearly the story surrounding XRP and Ripple is far from over. The coming days could become extremely important, not only for XRP price action, but also for understanding how serious Ripple's long-term banking ambitions really are. Investors, traders, and financial analysts across the world are now watching carefully to see whether Ripple can continue strengthening its position within the traditional financial system, while XRP attempts to recover from this latest wave of selling pressure. No matter what happens next, one thing is certain: the crypto market never stays quiet for long, and XRP continues proving that it remains one of the most important and emotionally charged digital assets in the industry. Make sure you stay locked in with XRP Insider for all the latest XRP news, Ripple developments, market analysis, and breaking crypto updates, because the next major move could happen at any moment.